Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out for Agentic LA for the first episode of Agentic LA. We're going to be doing a bunch of these. You guys are the inaugural group. This spawned from a lot of different ways. I think the first one was the subject matter is really hot. There seems to be a big hunger for this type of content. But I think more so, there seems to be a big desire for in real life community events, like-minded folks talking about stuff. There we go. There we go. I think specifically for me, the deluge of AI-related information, we're all sitting at home, working, trying to digest what's happening. There's a lot of hype, a lot of things that are maybe overhyped. And it's nice to get in the room, in face-to-face spaces with people and be like, what's really going on? Like, what are you guys actually seeing? So I'd be kind of curious to see what everyone else is seeing. And maybe I'll do a couple quick shout outs. Who here is from a big company? Who's at like a big FANG company, like a big giant enterprise company? Okay, I got a couple folks. And then who here is at like a little baby startup? Who's like a founder? Sweet, sweet. And who here is an investor? Crypto does not count. You can't be investing in crypto. Okay, no VCs in the audience. And then a big question is, who here has built an AI application and has that AI application in production? Okay, we got about half the folks. So this is what sort of spawned this first event, is that we recognize that it's really, really easy to build things. It's really, really easy to build prototypes. In fact, it's sort of mesmerizing, the possibilities, whether you're doing something as a developer, as a creative, as an executive. You could be building things, financial models. You could be building AI videos, AI films. You could have AI write code for you. And it's super interesting to see who's doing it on their desktop when they're prompting LLMs directly, where the human is a necessary piece to keeping the thing moving, and who's actually deployed something to a server where these things are actually acting autonomously. Right? So we've all seen hype. We all are on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we see that agents are sort of taking over. They're going to steal everyone's jobs. And the first moment that you go and try and deploy something to production, you quickly realize how much scaffolding is necessary to do this stuff, how much work, how much domain expertise, and really, I think, brand new domain expertise. So I'd say like maybe I'll do another quick shout out of like, who has been working in machine learning? Who's been working in machine learning throughout their career, right? So and who is like a data person, data scientist, data engineer? I'll tell a quick story about myself. So I'm a data scientist. I'm a programmer. I've been building data applications for 25 years. I was building machine learning models. I thought I had my finger on the pulse of what AI was, what was possible. And 2023, is that the high water mark when it all hit? I was just like, these demos have to be fake. There's something about that thing that I'm looking at. A human had to have created that. I was like, there's no way a computer program, this is not what machine learning does. It's not creative. It's very rigid. It doesn't produce videos. It doesn't make pretty pictures. And it certainly does not write code. Definitely does not write code. This is the providence of domain experts, the people that have had 25 years of experience doing these things. And boy, was I wrong. To now see the proliferation of these tools that allow folks really from any domain to move into any other domain and quickly become proficient, to quickly become a programmer, to quickly become a filmmaker, to quickly build a financial model if that's not your background. And so it's super, super interesting to me to see how quickly this stuff is evolving. And then obviously the big challenges that are ahead. So I was very lucky to attend the LangChain Interrupt conference 2 months ago. Met a lot of great people. I met the LangChain folks who have graciously sponsored our event. And we'll get into what LangChain is for those folks who have used it or not used it. Who has not used LangChain before? All right. about half the crowd. And then I also had the pleasure of meeting the Arcade folks. And Arcade also graciously sponsored this event. Thank you guys very much. I'd never heard of Arcade before, but apparently this is part of the last mile problem of getting agents into production, is this authorization problem. Is how do we actually grant agents control in a safe way? How do we give them control of our email, of our Slack, of our Snowflake database in a safe way, in a very safe way? So we're going to hear from both of them. So the way we're going to do this is LangChain's going to get up and they're going to give an overview of who they are, sort of business case for why LangChain, as well as how to actually do it. We're going to hear from Arcade, see how their platform actually works, where it sits in the architecture, and then you'll hear from me. I'm going to do a demo of stuff that we have built on both of these platforms and where we see this stuff fitting. My focus is, retail, D2C, marketing, ad tech, fintech. Where exactly do these tools fit into those existing stacks? So I'm super excited for you guys to hear some of this material. And with that, I'd love to hand the microphone over to Jason from LangChain.
Okay, awesome. Tim, thanks so much for putting this together and getting us all in a room. I want to thank all of you for braving LA traffic to come and talk to us tonight. You're in an exciting space where you have 30 or 40 brave individuals that are willing to traverse LA traffic to get to us, so thank you. My name is Jason Tazi. I am with LangChain. I'm on our go-to-market team. I am based out of San Diego, California, and I cover the Southwest for us. So just to level set, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the origins of LangChain. We're going to talk a little bit at a high level as far as the problems that we solve. Again, we're going to try and keep this high level. It'll flow very nicely into the balance of the presentations that you see today. If anyone wants to jump into this and dork out a little bit more on some of the more finer points here, I am happy to do that after the session. So to start, LangChain was first created in 2022. And that was a side project from our CEO, Harrison Chase. Has anyone listened to or heard Harrison speak in the past? Fair bit. Is this all on YouTube? Pretty much, or in person too? Nice. Yeah, so I was joking around with someone beforehand. I'm not entirely sure, but I think there might be two of them, because he is everywhere. The guy is he's on Reddit forums, he's in LinkedIn, he's in our Slack sessions, he's meeting with customers, he's presenting last week even over at the Cisco conference. And so the man is everywhere. He's quite an impressive individual. The company's growing rapidly. So even in this calendar year alone, we've doubled our employee count. We have hundreds and hundreds of enterprise level customers at this point, growing each quarter, and they're building production ready agents. At last check, we have roughly 50,000 users currently on our SaaS self-service platform. The community is quite large, right? So we're seeing about 100 million monthly downloads of the larger ecosystem. And we take this as a strong statement from the industry that if you're going to build production-ready agents, you're going to do that with LangChain and LangGraph. So kind of just a continuation on this. As of April, we are downloaded more than the OpenAI SDK. Again, another indication from the industry as far as the proliferation, the marketplace making a decision that, hey, if we're going to build these reliable agents, we're going to do so with LangChain. So this is the, hey, what are companies building with us, right? And so we have a number of different sort of use cases that we see. We'll see things from co-pilots, companies like LinkedIn. I actually came from GitLab. They were building Duo workflow using LangGraph. AI search, we see enterprise GPT at companies like AT&T. We have investment research tools. So JP Morgan presented David, which is their investment research tool that analysts will use. They presented at Interrupt. I'll pause there. Was anyone able to go to Interrupt in San Francisco besides the guys in the front row? That was it. Okay.
We need one down here in Los Angeles.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of excitement. So I think we had 1,000 slots maybe open for the show, and within a day or two, I think it completely sold out. We had a very long wait list. So I don't know, and so I know this is being filmed, but I would imagine that next year we're going to have a much bigger presence, and we hope to see a lot of you guys there. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I think it's important because sometimes there's confusion about what is commercially offered and what is open source. And so the open source is going to be first and foremost LangChain. And so this is just providing the integration points for LLMs, tools, vector stores that streamline our agent development that happens in LangGraph. LangGraph is where we are designing and building agents that are both flexible and reliable. So now that you've started to build your agent, this is where we move over into the commercial offering. These are the pay-to-play sort of offerings. LangSmith is going to be the first of the two. This is going to be providing observability, testing, debugging. This is about understanding how is my application going to perform when I push it to production, right? And allow us to make data-driven decisions. We can refer to it as eval-driven development. LangGraph Platform is our commercial offering that allows you to deploy and scale agents, typically agents that are long-running or have bursty workflows or are stateful. There are certain considerations and nuances there. LangGraph Platform is also big as far as being able to have a agent registry, if you will, where you can understand how many agents are out there already within my organization. Can I take an agent and maybe reuse that agent as a part of a subgraph for something else? And so we know that the agents that are a part of that registry have already been blessed by either our platform teams or security, and we know we can just kind of skip ahead. So a lot going on here, but I want you to focus on right now. Today we're going to talk about the build portion of this, and so a lot of organizations, I think, would fall probably into the conversation that I'm having anyway, into the first sort of two categories. And we are starting to have the future conversations about what does this stuff look in production or production at scale. That's not to say that we don't have large enterprises that are further along in the journey. We absolutely do. But if you look at today, we're going to focus on the build sort of portion of this. I am happy to go into a much deeper conversation around online evaluations, collecting data sets, human annotation. We can talk about when you're looking to deploy one-click deployments, 30 different API endpoints to speed that up. Our agent IDE, LangChain Studio, or LangGraph Studio, which is a visual representation of your graph and your agent and the way that you can interact with that and make different sort of changes. Prompt engineering, all this is kind of mixed in here. We're going to focus very heavily, though, today at the high level on building the agent. So why do customers actually buy? We do a lot of different things, but ultimately, why does someone come to us and decide to use the ecosystem? First is going to be improving operational efficiency by standardizing the way that you build, test, and deploy your agents. This allows us to also attract and retain top talent. We're starting to refer to them as agent engineers. These are engineers that have many different backgrounds or skill sets that might span traditional software development, machine learning, data science, right? And then there's kind of this confluence of an agent engineer. I think you'll also start to hear context engineering, right, as a part of it, because this is how we are making our agents more reliable in production. So aside from attracting and retaining this top talent, it's also about agile human capital. If you are in a big organization and you have different teams that are using different processes and tools, if I take one engineer from team A, I can't necessarily plug and play them in team B without them having to learn a whole new set of processes, et cetera. So this also allows you to be able to have this notion of agile human capital. The second reason is really going to be around deploying production-ready agents faster and with more confidence. This is where we talk about eval-driven development. At GitLab, at LangChain, you'll hear Harrison Chase talk quite a bit about great evals come from great observability. So we need to understand what is our application doing under the hood. And this is where we get into tracing. We understand, how long each step is taking, what tools are being called at each individual step. What are the token usage for each input-output pair or trace that happens? How do we make data-driven decisions about how do we change some of these things, such that if I want to change out a model and maybe compare OpenAI's model versus Anthropic's, do I get a better response? Is the token rate go down or up? How do I judge these things? Is it going to be accuracy, conciseness? Again, this is that good or great evals come from that or are born out of that foundational aspect, which is great observability. We talked a little bit about the agent registry, reusing and sharing agents, and also reducing agent sprawl. Third is we're going to be what you see on the screen there, and that's future-proofing your investment with increased flexibility through the agnostic ecosystem. We don't care what, build with any framework, use any LLM, call any set of tools, deploy with any cloud provider. There is no vendor lock in there. The last is going to be about managing security and compliance concerns through flexible deployment options. So we talked, this is, think self-hosted data planes, air-gapped environments. We are SOC 2, HIPAA, GDPR compliant. Take security very seriously. If you are in a HIPAA sort of environment, maybe you want to make sure that your devs are not being able to see PII or health data as a part of any sort of trace. We have the ability to obfuscate that data so it's randomized. Okay, so now we're building agents. We're getting into some of the meat of it. On the left, we see a basic kind of RAG flow, if you will. This should be something that's familiar to a lot of people in the room, but it's basically a predetermined control flow. So it's always going to be the same pattern no matter what we do. User's going to ask a question, application does some sort of retrieval from a set of tools or documents. That research then gets passed back to the LLM, which does some analysis, generates the answer. So even though the answer might be slightly different between runs because the LLM is essentially non-deterministic, the flow is always going to stay the same. That's always going to be constant. And so that predictable flow makes our agent reliable, but it's not necessarily flexible to handle edge cases, etc. So on the right, we see the React agent. And so here you have an input that you pass to the LLM. The LLM will call a tool to give itself more context, some sort of informed decision about what to do next. Do I call more tools before providing an answer, or do I just go right to providing an output to the user? So this is very flexible, and it comes with a couple of drawbacks. The biggest one is going to be how reliable is it? Because if you're working with that React architecture, maybe you have things like ambiguous tasks or missing context. Perhaps you have too many tools that an agent can call at any individual step. Maybe the tools themselves aren't very well defined. And so now the control flow is flexible and it can tackle a lot of different problems, but again, doesn't do it reliably. So building production-ready agents is going to require a control flow that is both flexible and reliable. That's where LangGraph kind of comes in, right? So LangGraph, we're going to build in determinism into our non-deterministic control flows. This way we give developers control over certain aspects of the agent or application logic. Always take a specific action, maybe at a specific point in a control flow. So step 1 and step 2 are going to be static. But we're going to maintain the desired flexibility by working in non-deterministic steps into the control flow. So where we're giving some agency back to the LLM. This allows our agents to tackle a lot of different use cases, edge cases that maybe we didn't explicitly code for. So kind of summarize at a high level, LangGraph is going to let us find that sweet spot in the middle between flexibility and reliable that's best suited for your use case, your risk profile. Right amount of flexibility while still being able to reliably push to production. So this is kind of the, what is LangGraph and why do organizations turn to it? One, it's very low level, and so it's got a flexible structure. Each node in the graph is just Python or TypeScript code, so you can incorporate your existing code and you're off and running. State persistence, each of those nodes is backed by a database, so Postgres, Redis, etc. That allows for memory across the interactions, fault tolerance, so you can go back in time, try a step if the agent fails, remember previous messages, etc. We already talked about balanced determinism, and this is about combining both, say, deterministic steps, non-deterministic LLM calls that give you that flexibility and reliability that you want. Reduce the scope of a search, remove non-determinism so that a node knows how to call a specific tool, a specific step. Those are some examples. One of the biggest is going to be human in the loop. This is like, I can't tell you how many times, like when you talk about an organization trying to go to production, quality is number one as far as like what comes back from our dev community. They say we just need to know that the responses are going to be quality responses and it's going to behave the way that we want. And so part of that bears out through our eval-driven development with Langsmith and understanding how is that going, how are those input-output pairs going to behave through the tracing, right? And we can set up experiments. Again, we can get into online and offline data sets. So if an application is already running, I can understand what happens if I change out a model. I can edit my prompt to see what that does. Maybe I give it a different set of tools to call in a pre-prod sort of manner when you're thinking more maybe along like a traditional CI/CD workflow. Perhaps now you're also even altering the structure of the graph to understand, hey, what does that do for my output? Also, what does that do for the cost of of that run? And the last thing, again, the UX is huge here. We have built-in streaming capabilities, ensuring responsive agent interactions. This, when we look at everything that we talked about on that, from end to end in the ecosystem, this is our core competency. We are purpose-built for building production-ready agents. Hopefully, I didn't go over. I don't know when I started, but there's a lot to cover. I was joking around with someone before. I could sit up here and talk for at least 2 hours on this stuff, and we could dork out. I'm happy to do that after the session today. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me. That's my cell phone. Try to keep it during hours. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about what agents or what you guys are building today and how we can help or either help you deploy those agents or help just with general education. So thank you for the time.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Alex Salazar. I am the founder CEO of Arcade.dev, and we are making it possible to connect AI agents to data, APIs, and other systems in a secure way. So I'll explain with this slide. Why can't ChatGPT send an email? That'll be drafted. You'll copy and paste it. All of the agent demos you've probably seen or played with all have a weather API that they're calling as a tool, and nothing really substantial. And all those support chatbots that you run into on all the websites you go to can answer questions around public knowledge-based information, but if you ask it about your order, it can't answer it. So let's talk about agentic tools. You've heard the term MCP, it's all the rage now. That's really about agentic tools. So if the large language model is the brain of an agent, the tools are its hands. And one of the biggest problems we see in people trying to take agents to production is that they misunderstand what a tool is versus an API. They are not the same thing at all. The tool might use an API, but it is not an API. In fact, large language models don't speak APIs. So you might be able to get it working in a demo. If you try to do a project, it won't work. Really succinctly, a REST API is a resource-based CRUD operation, create, read, update, delete. A tool is an intention-based workflow that an agent expects. So this is search email endpoint, send email endpoint. There is no reply to email endpoint. But an agentic tool, an agent would need to have a tool for replying to an email. And that's a workflow that actually has multiple API calls to make it work. And it reflects the user's intention. And then everybody's heard of MCP, but MCP is a protocol. It's a communication protocol for how the large language model is going to speak to the tool. It itself is not a set of tools. Now, there are tools that speak MCP, but it's still on developers, some side of the equation, to go build the tools. And an agent isn't an agent if it can't call tools. Otherwise, it's just a chatbot. So pop quiz. Who can do this math without a calculator? Maybe one of you guys. Well, neither can a large language model. And so if you take one of the more advanced thinking models, give it that same math equation, it's going to fail. The bigger the number, the more likely it is to fail. Now, some of you will say, well, hey, I was in ChatGPT and it got it right. ChatGPT used a tool. It basically used CodeGen. It used Python to automatically create a math function and then run math. It didn't actually do the math itself. It used a tool. But if you take the earliest tool calling model ever, GPT 3.5 Turbo, very cheap, not a very good model, and you give it math functions, it aces the same exam. So that's 100% of every single one of those. less latency, for sure less token costs, better results. That's the power of tools. The problem is most of the tools that your agent needs are not math functions. You want to talk to Gmail, you want to talk to Slack, SAP, some other system. All the things that matter in software tend to require some degree of authentication or authorization. This is where we come in. So we're Arcade.dev, and we are an agent authorization system and a tool calling platform. You can think of us like if Okta and like MuleSoft had a and so we make it easy to do end user authentication and authorization, which is, can this agent on behalf of this user perform that action? We have pre-built integrations that any agent can use out of the box. In fact, the LangChain Open Agents platform uses this by default as the tools platform. And we also have a really nice tool development kit, so you can custom build whatever it is you need for your agents with all the same functionality that our pre-builts have. All the pre-built systems are open source, so you can always fork them and build your own. And the primary performance measurement for an agent right now is consistency and accuracy. So everything we do is designed for that. And as part of that, we come with an eval framework for LLM to tool interaction. So when you go build your tool to go talk to Gmail or talk to your own system, how do you know it works? How do you know the large language models perform well in tool selection and parameter selection? There's really no framework in the world other than that we've made available to see how that works, and all that information can feed back into LangChain. And our team is out of Okta, Redis, MongoDB, Airbyte, and Microsoft. So let me give you guys a demo to prove that it's not bullshit, because everyone in agents is bullshit. All right, so this is, let me do another for you. This is a sample application. This is not our product. We are not Chatbot, but this is a out-of-the-box open source ChatGPT clone that we found. It uses LangGraph. It took our JavaScript developer half a day to wire our service into it. And now we can do things that you cannot do on ChatGPT or Claude. You may have never actually seen this work in a general purpose agent. So we're going to ask it to talk to my Slack. So what's happening right here is the agent, so in the agent loop, in the React agent loop, the prompt is being sent to the large language model. Along with that is being sent a bunch of tool definitions, like a calculator, right? It's being sent a bunch of buttons. We're sending 100 buttons. Right out of the gate, it's great. If you've ever done any tool calling, you probably run into the problem where you start to collapse into hallucinations around 10 tool definitions. Apple wrote a paper that said like one of the hard caps is 40. We just sent about 100. That's really intelligent tool design. That's part of the way our framework works. And then it selected the right tool. And then it also predicted what's called the parameters for that tool. It said, I want the general channel, and I want a limit of 10 messages. That request gets sent back to us. If you use LangGraph, think of us as a tool node. We then take that information and we go execute it. So it hits our service bus, we route it to the right microservice. Right here, we're using about 5 different toolkits. Think of these like MCP servers. And then within those toolkits, we routed to the Slack toolkit. And within the Slack toolkit, we sent it to the get message in channel by name function or tool. And the very first thing we did before we executed was we checked for authorization. Can this agent on behalf of me access this channel and read these messages? And the way we did that was we checked for an existing OAuth authorization from Slack. We had one. So we said, hey, what are the permissions, the scopes and claims? And then we compared those to what's in toolkit. Do they match? Does this user have access? Does the agent have access? Yes. Excellent. We're going to execute. And it all works. And then we return the results. And we can do writes as well, right? We can do send an email to Ben at Arcade. And it'll do the same exact thing, but this time over here. Give me more information. But now let me show you how this works. This is our dashboard. This is actually our run. So we've got a dashboard like everything else. We have a bunch of pre-built tools, hundreds of them for many of the services that you probably want. You're probably going to end up building your own custom tools. It's a different topic for a different day, but almost everybody custom builds their own tools because it gives you extra benefit, performance, and consistency. So you'll deploy those as workers in our service. Playground to make sure everything works. But let's go to the user section. This is where a lot of the magic shows up. So we've got tokens, authorization tokens for every service that the user's already authorized and authenticated into. So in this case, we've got Slack, we've got GitHub, we've got Google, and as many as you want for any services that you want. So we're going to kill that Slack token that we just used. Now we're going to try this again. Now, if any of you have ever used ChatGPT and you've tried to use the Google Drive functionality, you'd be like, hey, Alex, but I can use Google Drive in ChatGPT. Well, not really. You are pre-authenticated in the Google and the ChatGPT web app. Actual agent, the AI system, isn't doing that. So you're authorizing ChatGPT before you even given it the prompt. This is going to happen inside the agent loop. This is post-prompt. Same thing. It's going to predict the tool, select the tool, sends us the request, gets routed. We don't have an authorization. I can't prove that this user and this agent are allowed to do this function. So I send back an authorization URL. And this is presented to the user as a button. And we go over here. There we go. We see the standard Slack OAuth flow. And we get to say, yes, complete. We go back, and the tool continues. That's huge, because no one had to customize anything. Your agent hooked into the existing security infrastructure that you as a consumer have, but also enterprise have. So if you're working at a large organization and you want your agent to talk to any of the systems they have in place, this makes it possible. To show how this works from a developer perspective, we're going to go to our docs. So again, we've got a bunch of pre-built tools. We've got a huge list. But let me show you how to build a tool, because that'll really express how this stuff works. When you build a tool with auth, you're going to import a bunch of libraries like you would otherwise. And then if you're going to annotate your function, whatever your tool is, with tool, like it would in LangChain. And that's going to bring our entire framework to there. And then if you require any kind of authentication or authorization, all you have to do is just drop that line in and tell us what the author library is. And that author library can be anything. It can be something custom. If you're working at a large enterprise and you've got a bunch of old Microsoft Active Directory or Intra servers, you can set those up as well, and it'll work. And if you care about permissions or you need permissions, you define whatever permissions, scopes, and claims you need to execute this function. And by doing that, even if you don't know what least privileged access is, you just implemented least privileged access for your agent, which is a very big deal for both security and safety. That's the auth side. We also handle secrets. So if you need passwords, usernames, API keys, credit card numbers, or security numbers, you never want to send this to the agent because a large language model can't be trusted. But you only need that at tool calls. So by putting them in the secret management system of our system, we inject them at tool runtime, and the agent never sees it. And then the last thing, one of my favorite features, is what happens if a large language model hallucinates? Today, it errors out in most agents. But that's terrible user experience. Let's say we're doing a send direct message to a user. There are places we know it's going to hallucinate. I call them predictable hallucinations. We know it's going to get usernames wrong some percentage of the time. Great, check for it. And if you catch it hallucinating, you can send a retrieval tool error from Arcade. So we send an error back up to the agent, but along with that error, we send back additional context that the developer gets to define. So in this case, we're sending back the user list. And so if the agent has the opportunity to retry a failed call and you give it additional context, consistency and accuracy goes through the roof. Comes at the expense of latency, so the user sees a longer request, but they see a success message, not an error message. And then I don't think people talk enough about evaluations. If you want an agent that does anything in production, you're going to need to build evals. The only way to build evals for tool calling at the moment is our service, and we make it stupid easy. We make evals feel like PyTests. You're gonna write your evals just like PyTests, and we've made a number of different techniques like cosine similarity tests. We've made them like one line of PyTest. Find similarity critic. No. Tell us what the sentence needs to be, and then we'll score it based on what we got. So you don't need to be an MLE. Your team doesn't need to be a machine learning engineer in order to build proper evaluations to make sure. That's us at Arcade.
All right. Everyone knows where we are already, which is good. All right, so I'm going to open up our aperture a little bit. We've heard from the main course, let's call it, of the event. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about how people are building agentic apps. And I got a demo that I want to show as well. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do. So who is Latticework Insights? We are a data science agency. We build custom solutions. Okay, we're not a SaaS company. We build custom data science solutions, custom AI solutions. We work with retail, D2C, fintech, healthcare, you name it. What we traditionally do, we build ETL pipelines, we build data warehouses, we do data modeling and reporting, and we help folks take that stuff to market, take retailers and figure out what their profitability is, what their unit economics are, how to retain users over time, how to A/B test, and how to build predictive analytics, how to do forecasting. And more and more and more, each slice of this stack is being replaced or augmented or accelerated by AI tools. It's really something to behold. So I want to show a couple AI solutions that we have gotten into production. And then I want to show a demo of a tool that we built to help folks get AI solutions into production faster. And so how do we do these things? So scoping these AI projects is difficult. It's not like scoping projects pre-AI. Why? Because things are moving really quickly. We meet a client, we evaluate their maturity and their readiness to do this thing. Do they have folks in-house that know how to build agents, that know how to do software architecture? Are they really ready for this project? We are very careful to define value. What is it going to look like if this project is successful? What is the dollar value if this thing works? If we build a bunch of agents for you, was it worth the effort? Does it reduce your cost? Does it allow your employees to be more prolific? And we need a real strong buy-in on an agile methodology for building products. Every 30 days, the entire landscape changes. You just need to stop the project and be like, have we chosen the right tools? Should we switch any of the tools out of the stack? And we present them, small, medium, and large options. How big is their appetite? So we take folks through many different ways to approaching this problem. We call it light, basic, and advanced. Light is basically a quick upskill, a quick prototype, maybe 1 or 2 weeks to deliver value quickly and show people the ocean, show people something interesting that can be done with AI. Basic is like a blueprint. We know exactly what we're going to deliver. And we help folks get from point A to point B, where point A and B are very well defined. And advanced is just, we're going to get on a whiteboard and we're going to build a spaceship for somebody. So sometimes the use case is unclear. People don't necessarily know what they're going to build, and they don't know what is possible. There's so many tools out there to know about. They don't even know what to do. So we built this product called Bloom. Bloom allows us to demonstrate to people all the interesting things that can be done and all the considerations that they should be thinking about when building their agentic app. Toolkits, agents, are the agents ambient? Are they running on their own? Right? What does multimodality mean? Like I could just give it a spreadsheet. I can give it a photograph of a spreadsheet and it reads all the numbers. We're going to have voice in there. We're going to do evals and fine tuning. Our human's going to be in the loop. And how do we prepare for things like the last mile, right? Like what are the last mile roadblocks that are going to kill the project before it makes it into production? And I think this part is super interesting because I think we would all recognize in this day and age that AI first companies are going to beat incumbents. Incumbents have all this baggage on their shoulders of being a pre-AI company. And we don't mean AI for the sake of AI, right? We want things that are beyond skeuomorphism. So the analogy I always love is, when they invented automobiles, it was easy to envision a gas station, right? Because horses had watering holes. Say a gas station is just a watering hole for a car. was easy to imagine a gas station, but it would have been impossible to envision Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has, the valley, and we got sushi, and we have Palm Springs, and we have traffic, and we have people with big giant yards. It would be impossible to envision the scale of Los Angeles at the advent of the invention of the automobile. So how is it that you help someone think about building a brand that's not just a skeuomorphic brand, just a copy of what currently exists, but just using AI tools? Who cares if you build something that already exists, just doing it with AI tools? So what I want to do is I want to show a demo. I have to log into this guy real quick. So I want to show a demo. And so what we've done is, over the course of the last few years, we've built a bunch of agents. I'm going to blow this up. We built an orchestrator agent, an agent that basically you can talk to it and it decides what other agents to route the request to. You can even mention it like you're on Twitter, like you're on Slack. And say, hey, I want to talk to this business analyst. And what does the business analyst do? Well, the business analyst is an advanced business analyst. It looks at a business idea through a number of lenses, and it creates a report card. And so it analyzes it through the lens of a VC. Well, what does a VC care about? Early stage risk, market saturation. Is there a chance that this company is going to have $1 billion exit? If you're a CFO, maybe it's a little bit more clinical. Headcount, upfront capital requirements. CFOs look at the world through a very specific lens. CTOs, different story. How difficult is a technology to build and maintain? How difficult is the technology to take to market? And then it summarizes it. It creates this cool report card to be like, hey, your business idea stinks. And these are the areas where it needs improvement. It'll save you a trip to Sand Hill Road to pitch your business that is not ready for prime time. So we thought a lot about what this means if your business stinks or if it's skeuomorphic, about, well, how do I specifically make it a future brand? How do I turn it into something that is going to be interesting? How do I invent Los Angeles before I know what Los Angeles actually is? And so we feel like there's two areas that constitute future brands. One is that it's built with AI at every step of the process. Everyone in the company is fluent in AI, and they're just doing everything that they're doing. Marketing, product development, ideation is built with AI, but the products themselves should contain some curious wrinkle. They should use AI in some interesting or novel way, right? Hence this deepfake camouflage idea that we came up with. We're like, this is an interesting thing that hooks people, makes it more interesting, and so on. We created a stunt marketing agent. Okay, we know that attention is king in this era, and we were like, look, we want you guys to look at you agents, to look at this business idea through the lens of what would Banksy do if he was making this company? What would QAnon do if he was making this business? What would Mischief do if they were building this crazy viral by design business? And who cares? This is a persona developer. Who specifically would care about this type of business? Is it a soccer mom? Is it a young hipster? Is it someone in a big city? Who are these people? What's our target market look like? And so on. You're a media planner. You're a media planner that has access to a big fat Snowflake database that's got a whole bunch of historical data about orders and inventory and historical CPM trends. It knows a lot. So it's going to say, hey, go look at these historical CPM trends and tell me, what time of year should I be advertising to these particular people? Right? What should the messaging be? Is it a good idea to give discounts on Black Friday? The data should bear it out. So let me show this to you real quick. So here's the app. And I can do a number of things with it. I can say hello, and it responds to me. But I can also say, look, hey, business analyst, I'm trying to build a business. I'm going to make something up. I'm going to try to build a business that's like, Uber for gardeners. Right? I'm going to flag a gardener at the drop of a hat. He's going to show up. Now, by design, this is going to take a bit. It's going to take about 10 or 15 seconds. We want the responses to be quite verbose. This business analyst is going to give me a report card for whether or not it's a good idea to create an Uber for Gardeners app. Luckily, I'm using LangSmith, so I can go in and I can see exactly what's happening behind the scenes. And LangSmith is telling me, oh great, I'm routing this message to a business analyst. Here's my Uber for Gardeners query. And here's my response. Here's a report card. This is what the VC says. VC says, business stinks. Has no AI differentiator. The early stage risk is bad. There's a lot of people doing it apparently. I don't know, there's a lot of people doing Uber for gardening. The CFO hates it, right? The CTO hates it. This business stinks. Okay, we should not do this business. Well, what are we going to do? Well, we could say, hey, future brand strategists, can you please make this business ready for the era of AI? The era of AI. And they go, sure. It's going to take a bit. It's going to think a while. You know, again, thankfully we have tools like LangSmith. We can monitor the progress of the agents. I want to see what's going on here. And it's doing its routing. It's making the idea ready for the era of AI. And the future brand strategist is really thinking about it, like, well, how can we use AI in a novel way? Oh, this thing called Garden Genie. And here's how it compares to the regular brands. And here's how we use AI at every stage of the development. This is the curious wrinkle. You have an AI-powered garden aesthetics predictor. I don't know. And so on. We can say, this is actually pretty cool. Can you give me an idea? Can you give me an idea of who's going to buy this thing? What's my target market? Right? It's going to think about it. It's going to look at this, big database of white papers, and it's going to look at, historical trends, and it's going to think deeply about who is going to be in market for this type of application. Let's check, see what's going on in the back end. It's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. Cool. Routed the message to the persona developer. Still thinking. And it's creating artifacts for me. So at each stage of the development, it's creating, here's my business plan, this is my media plan, these are my personas, these are my target consumers. I got an urban plant enthusiast, I got a suburban family man, I got a retired green thumb. It's coming up with this, like what's the household income, age, where do they work, what are they interested in, all this stuff that generally you would be paying an ad agency to go through all this. You'd be paying a financial analyst. You'd be paying a VC scout to help you really hone your idea. And we can keep iterating on it and say, what, this is actually doing pretty good. I want you to come up with a social campaign. Can you create a social campaign for me? Right? And it's going to do that too. So you get the idea, but here's the thing. This is the present, okay? I'm the human, I'm in the middle, I'm the one driving the bus here. I'm telling the agents what to do and when to do them. Well, that's a lot of fucking work. Why can't I just tell the agents to figure it out? Why can't I just go in and say, hey guys, you tell me which agents to use, and you just give me a phone call, send me an email when it's all done. So I'm going to show you something real quick. So this is our LangGraph service. Okay. About half of the audience is excited I'm showing code on screen. This is the old way of doing things, right? I'm creating all of my individual agents. I'm creating nodes for them. I'm creating a state graph. Right? It's remembering what's happening at each stage of the process. It's adding all these nodes and getting them ready and saying, hey, listen, here's your entry point. Okay. Route message always goes first. It figures out who to talk to next. The router says, okay, cool. You're going to talk to one of these people. And when you're done, stop. Respond to the user. Well, the problem is the user's got to be there to listen to the response. So what if instead we created a different setup where we have a planning agent, and the planning agent says, hey, you got to go in there and you got to figure out what the problem domain is. and I want you to pick which agents are going to be doing this thing. And just give me a ring when it's done. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to have a conversation over lunch, and we're going to come back. We want to take a look at maybe like 10 business ideas that you've come up with. So I'm going to try to do this for you guys, get it to work on the first go. So get ready. Front end. Boom. And I'm going to get my dynamic guy, my autopilot guy, ready to go. Okay. Now I've got I've got a graph now of a lot of possibilities. Maybe hard to see on screen, but there's a million things that could happen. We have all this raw material that the agents are now going to figure out, well, which nodes and edges are we going to call? And so we're going to go in here, and we're going to grab this guy real quick. And we're going to do we're going to run this curl call here. And we're going to say, and I'm going to show you this guy making lots of decisions. Autopilot. Oops, he's not running yet. So this guy is trying to come up with an AI ice cream brand, and it's running through all these things, and it's decided which agents are going to be necessary to create this go-to-market plan. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to wait for the response. And while we're waiting, we can see in here, we can actually run this stuff in LangSmith, and we can kind of give it an example and say, hey, business analyst, we're going to say, can you create me a new business plan around, I don't know, AI ice cream? And it says, cool, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to submit. It's going to run. And so this now is showing me step by step on the right-hand side what it's doing. It's going to go agent to agent, and it's going to talk to the planner here. The planner's thinking about, well, who should I involve? And the planner says, listen, I'm going to call the business analyst. I'm going to call the persona developer. I'm going to call the future brand strategist. And then once that's all done, then I'm going to figure out what the social campaign is. And it goes through each agent. Each of them doing their thing. It's given it a report card now. Down here, it's developing personas for this business. And there you go. And then it responds. Let's see where we are. Uh-oh. I'm in terminal window hell right now. And so it's told us what its plan is. It's created artifacts for us to go and retrieve. And now we have some options that we as humans can come in and review. We didn't even have to be in the middle. So this is the future, right? This is the future, is that we can design the raw material. We can imbue these machines with intelligence. We can give it pieces. We can give it personas. And it can go and figure out the problem, the solution on its own. So we would love to talk to folks that are getting involved in this area. We would love to walk folks through this Bloom platform. If you're stuck, I really just want to see the art of the possible. Really think through like how agentic apps are going to be built in the future, and how to make your brand something that's going to really stand out in this new era. We'd love to talk.